The issue of the second docket in the Senzo Meyiwa murder case, which dominated discussions for the past 2 days, has now been put to bed. Judge Tshifhiwa Maumela has confirmed that himself and the state, as well as the 2 legal counsels, have agreed not to pursue the matter further in the interest of time.
That renders a continuation along the trail that we had jumped onto around the application not being very, very necessary, almost an unwise use of time. All 4 of us agreed that Advocate Mshololo is no longer going to pursue this application in the way it was proceeding, in the interest of saving time for better use for purposes of this case.
Let's touch base with Newzroom Afrika's Linda Mnisi, who's at the High Court in Pretoria. So a very short delivery of that judgment from yesterday's proceedings, Linda, but some time was spent, and the advocate Mshololo labored on the point of the reading of the statement of the late Brigadier Ndlovu, because he was the one that called Sergeant Musiwa to the crime scene.
Indeed, in fact, that ruling on the application that we saw being brought yesterday by Advocate Mshololo, much of this morning really was spent dealing with that particular aspect, and you would have heard the state still making its submissions and the judge asking that they meet in chambers to deal really with this application, because some of the issues that have been raised in that particular application had already been raised in court before. So the agreement then where that application is concerned was that the instructing attorney or the attorney representing accused number 1 to 4 would hand over his heads of arguments and not continue to labor on that particular application, all in the interest really of saving time, but also the judge saying that he's noting that that particular docket was not furnished to Advocate Mshololo at the same time that it was furnished to Advocate Malisela. If you'll remember that just shortly after it was furnished to her, she did indeed ask for a lengthy postponement to peruse really through the second docket. And you speak about the issue around this particular statement that needs to be read out in court. Advocate Mshololo bringing an application to tender hearsay evidence before this court, and the reason for that is because you'll remember Brigadier Ndlovu has now passed away, and she says that because he's unable to come to court, she may call the Commissioner of Oath to come and confirm this particular statement. It's interesting that, it's a statement that is made by someone who was amongst those who arrived first at that particular scene. And you would have heard previously during evidence in chief, Sergeant Thabo Musiwa saying that when he arrived at the scene, he was pointed out, on the evidence really to pick up in that particular, scene. So they're yet to read that particular statement and go through it in terms of the contradictions, because primarily Advocate Zandile Mshololo wants to deal with the contradictions that, have been made, particularly where Sergeant Thabo Musiwa's statements are concerned or testimony is concerned.
Absolutely. The judge also quite concerned because he says there are quite a number of theories that are doing the rounds, especially before he delivered that judgment on the statement to be read by the late Brigadier Ndlovu, that it's casting aspersions on the integrity of the criminal justice system.
Indeed, you'll remember that comes at the backdrop of course, the state objecting to this statement being read out in court. It cited issues around how it was previously brought up by Advocate Malisela, but he did not get far. He did not succeed in having that particular statement read. So having considered some of the submissions then that were made by the state, including that it would not be in the interest of justice because the author of the statement himself has passed away. He can't come to court and confirm, the statement and the conditions at which it was taken in, and the fact that, he can't come and testify around the occasion of the statement itself, saying therefore it cannot be in the interest of justice because it goes beyond just confirming the existence of the statement. The Commissioner of Oath would not be then able to cover issues around, the conditions in which, or the occasion in which the statement was taken. So to clear it all out, the judge saying that there are a number of really speculations that have been made, some of them made in this particular court, and those, of course, still needed to be cleared out. So in weighing all the submissions that have been brought before this court, he sees that it is in the interest of justice for this particular statement to be read out in court, and for those contradictions then to be put to Sergeant Thabo Mosia. He did also make mention of the fact that Sergeant Thabo Mosia must remember that his responsibility really would be around his role and what he has said pertaining, of course, to the statement that is now being read out, or will now be read out, which was deposed then by the late Brigadier.
The judge, Tshifhiwa Maumela, is concerned, Linda, about the manner in which this trial is proceeding, saying the focus has shifted from the killing of the Bafana Bafana player to side issues. Meaning what?
Well, he was speaking in relation to the application that we were hearing from yesterday till this morning, saying that some of the issues that were being raised during this application are issues that are on the record, are issues that have been heard before, issues that have been submitted. It is common cause that this particular, second docket that implicates Kelly Khumalo and the likes was handed over to Advocate Mshololo, not at the same time as it was handed over to Advocate Malisela Defo, who is the former counsel for accused number 1 to 4. You'll remember he did himself, Advocate Malisela Defo, confirm that that particular docket was handed to him before, and he had gotten it from a certain investigating officer. So it was then clear and made clear before open court then that Advocate Malisela Defo was part of the handing over, or had received that particular docket. So now at this particular point, the judge is saying that much of the time is being spent on the side issues than the actual trial. You'll also remember that Sergeant Thabo Mosia has been in court since yesterday, and for much of this morning, cross-examination had not continued, and the decision then to have those discussions in chamber would then inform, that ruling that he took, that, they all agree on the fact that some of the issues that have been raised before, but he does note the concerns that are coming from Advocate Mshololo, saying that she did not receive the docket on time. So to move then the case further and to not delay it any further, he's then made that ruling that, instructing Attorney Titi Tobani would hand over his head of argument, and then we will then continue with cross-examination, where this particular statement deposed by Brigadier Ndlovu is now being, canvassed.
Linda, it is lunchtime there in court, and the court has adjourned for that, so let's afford you an opportunity to refuel your energies. Thank you very much for that update.